What's up, guys? We have a disgusting rainy day outside, so we finally get some garage time to work on old Maximus here. So we're going to be accomplishing a couple things. One of them is going to be a remote starter. Secondly, I finally got the passenger side step put back on, but we're having this issue. It's got a bad connection in the front. Oh, it didn't close all the way. So the front's not working, and we got to figure that out. All that is a bad connection, so it's not that big of a deal. But anyway, what we have over here is the Omega Linker remote start kit. This is what we got, CH4, and I've been reading up on this thing a little bit, just over the last hour or so that way I know what I'm doing. And then anyway, there was something in here that says sold separately, but it's required. So hopefully, I was watching the how-to video on this, and they didn't say anything about that. Hopefully, I won't end up needing it, but we have our box here. Looks pretty simple to install. So this goes into the factory wireless ignition node and then plugs into that thing. And then we have a hood open-close switch, so it just grounds out on itself. And that connects to this. And then I'm not sure what all that does yet. And then, of course, we do have this key that we just programmed to the truck at the end of the last video. So, as of right now, none of these buttons work. It does start the truck. So this was tradesman from the factory. Did not have keyless entry, and it did not have remote start. So we will try to make this work. See, it does start the truck, though. So this is before I tear into any of the wiring. Everything still works. Here's the factory key. So there we have it. That key works. All right, so we got one thing handled here. I mean, all that was is just, I think the solder joint in there is starting to go bad in that motor. So these have been broke off all summer. These brackets have. They got broke right here, basically in that area, and both of them snapped. So anyway, I ordered these brand new brackets, put the old motors back on there, and I think the solder joint in that one is on its last leg. Plus, these are brand new, and whoever works at the factory doesn't know the difference between up and down, apparently. At least on that one. So a new electric motor might have to be in the future on that one right there. Anyway, time to get on with the remote start. Well, guys, I'm being pretty hard-headed today because I'm going on a road trip and it is rainy, and I'm almost certainly going to hit rain. It's not currently raining. I don't really want to drive this through the rain, but I really want to take it to go get another ship box. So that's what we're doing. This truck's filthy anyway. It'll be fine. Well, this makes me feel a little bit better about driving this thing on a day where it could possibly rain. There's this guy up here, and I just saw a pretty nice Nova a minute ago. So we're almost certainly going to get rained on today. But oh well, sometimes it just happens. It ain't going to hurt this truck too bad. Well, we made it south of Nashville before we hit rain. 50 minutes to go. I hope it's not raining when I get there. I don't want to strap this to the trailer in the rain. Holy crap. Nashville traffic sucks. Well, here we are. We're at the house. Almost forgot to take a video of getting home. So we are about to unload this thing. So I basically got this short bed only for mock-up because it is pretty beat up. And this is to help me decide if I want a short bed. I got two hoods in here. The floor of this thing's solid. Tailgate's screwed. Anyway, yeah, we'll get this unloaded. All right, so we got this in the garage, and now we're gonna turn around and take it right back out of the garage because it's gonna rain all night, and Maximus has to go back in here. So last night, I stayed out here till real late, and I spiffed this up a little bit. So this one was wavy. I mean, I straightened it out some, but it's still got some waves in it. It's not gonna be perfect, but what I did do, and this is a Chevy bumper. It came with the Suburban, so this is that stuff that I got yesterday. So I basically just took this stuff here and some of this stuff here and this thing and spiffed them up, made it look a whole lot better. I mean, obviously they're still old parts, but so my game plan this morning, I've been coming out here trying to figure out exactly what I need to do to make this crew cab a reality. So I've been doing some measuring. The front door I think was 39 3/8, and the rear door was like 32 3/4, I think, or somewhere right around there. So basically it's gonna be another almost 7 inches because I want to do a full-size rear door. So the easy way to do this crew cab would to be just cut it off right there, you know, take the windshield off, or the Suburban rear window, and go straight across the top, and then stick a cab on there, and then I'd have a 3-door crew cab, and it'd be done. You know, I've seen a lot of guys do that. I think they look okay, you know, with the Suburban rear door. Obviously, you'd have to round this off too. Some people don't, and it just doesn't look right. And, you know, the easy way would be to leave the Suburban roof and integrate it in. So what I'm thinking here, I'm still gonna have to cut it right in this area. Honestly, I haven't figured out where I'm gonna cut it up through here. It might just be right there. And so I'm gonna go across the bottom. I'm gonna work on getting all this crap out of here. That is a cab mount, so I'm gonna go around that so that way the floor stays solid where it needs to. And then the truck cab, I'm gonna cut it. The truck cab's outside, but basically imagine, you know, this is the back of the truck cab. I'm gonna cut it probably right there, you know, where it starts to curve around to go around the windshield. So that way I have, you know, 1.5 feet or 2 foot, or however long it is, of straight, so that way I can join all this. I think this is gonna be much easier to do than that truck because most of it's already here and together in the form of a Suburban. So at first glance, this has screws in it. So I'm gonna take this out. I'm hoping that's how this works, that it just comes out real nice and easy with screws. And of course, I'll take my trim off. I don't want it getting destroyed. And then this whole section here, the side of the Suburban, I'm gonna try not to mutilate that because it may end up being a door skin. You know, it's already got the contour. It doesn't have a shape where it curves around. I don't think this one curves around much, if any. I don't know. That's something I've been wondering about this, and now that I got it in here, I can finally look at it. Because like this truck, I had to cut this door way up to make it straight right here, because this one curves around starting into the windshield. We're going to a car show this weekend, and that's why I'm not doing anything to this truck. So I don't want to tear into it and start painting, because that's basically where I'm at. If I was going to do literally anything else to this truck before paint, it would be wiring up these rock lights, which I've got that one right there, and I've got a handful, but not enough to do the whole truck. So I was like, screw it, I ain't gonna worry about it. The only other thing this thing needs before a car show is just a good cleaning, because it got drove through the rain yesterday. But where I'm gonna start on this morning is taking this 68 Chevy front end off. I did order some of those LED turn signals, the ones with the 2 horizontal lines. I've always loved the way those look, so I ordered those last night. They'll get here. So we're gonna stick our GMC front end on there because I want this to be a GMC truck. We'll keep this one sitting around just in case we want to switch it up one time. Now I had to lengthen the front of this truck 4.5 inches. I don't know if that's gonna be necessary on this truck. As of now, my goal for this truck is to be a 6.7 Cummins on a 2010 Dodge frame. Literally my 4th gen right out there. I'll drive it for a few more years while I put this thing together, and then we'll go get another truck. So we got a 67 GMC grill. We can make it the 6.7 67, which we may end up doing. I didn't shine this one up last night. So, I mean, I could shine that up, paint black around this rusty, crusty crap, and redo the bottom because it's gross. And it's not as wavy as this one is. So that's where I'm going to start, is squaring up my doors. putting the GMC front on, and then cleaning all this crap out of here. So that way I have a clean workspace to start with. And then I'm going to start drawing lines with a Sharpie. And I'll probably, if I can, I don't really want to cut this roof off right there across. But if I can, I'm going to drill out all the spot welds all the way around the top and take this whole Suburban and the roof all the way off at the same time. Anybody that's left the Suburban roof on their crew cab build, I'm sorry, but you're doing it wrong. So I got the doors off this thing. I took the inner fenders off of the fenders. So that way it's gonna be easier to mock up and such. So I'm gonna move this out of the way, and what I'm gonna do right now is take this 68 front end off of this truck and then get started putting the GMC front end on there. And I think here after a while, I'm just gonna basically cut the firewall off of this cab. So cut it right about there and there, and let this flop forward. I do need this pillar right there to make my fourth door, but the other side I don't need. But I'll worry about all that later. I'll just throw the firewall out back or something. All right, so the 68 front end is off of here. So what you just saw me doing was taking a tap to these holes. I did those holes too because I'll have to bolt the cowling to this eventually. And then I took all these bolts to the wire wheel over there. I even took a die to some of them. So I'm going to put these bolts in now that I have enough bolts. These are all off the 64 through 66 trucks, and I just barely had enough to get these doors to where they halfway work. So it looks like one more thing I'm gonna do is rob the hinge off the passenger side door over there, because this one doesn't have the door stop. And it looks like the Suburban back door doesn't have a door stop either, so it can just open almost 90 degrees. But we'll use those hinges when we put a full-length back door on this side. But this door lines up close, but not quite perfect. It doesn't shut all the way. So we'll get that figured out, nice and square, and then we'll bolt the fender on, and then we'll work that way. Well, I tell you what, this would not be possible without that Bobcat. These hoods aren't near as heavy as like that body style, but still, that was a pain in the ass. So here's where we're at. I got this core support. This is the one out of that 67 GMC that I got the same day I got the Suburban. So it's not the one that came with this truck cab. Anyway, it's less rusty. It's just got surface rust. But yeah, we got partially together, put the hinges on. We just stuck the hood on. I'm sure we're gonna have to align it. We'll have to get the latch and all that crap put in. I ended up putting the original door from this Suburban back on, and it doesn't have any of the mechanisms or the window in there, but it is square. And the other one, it was like leaned back up here, like it was touching, and you know, all the other body lines were in the right spot. So it was just out of square. So we'll rob the windows and the mechanisms out of it and stick it back in this. But we're gonna finish with the GMC front end first. Here we are. There is a GMC front end on this truck now. So my next course of action is gonna be to take all the stuff out of this door and stick it back in that door, and then I'm going to cut this cab in half. So I'm gonna do a little bit of measuring before I cut this, but I'm only gonna measure the floor. Up here, I'm basically going as far forward as I can. You know what? I'm not even gonna measure it at all, because this right here, straight across, I'll draw a line that gives me all of this space, which I'm gonna have to cut it off again somewhere anyway. I'm sure it'll be a little bit shorter. But then we're gonna do the same thing with the floor. We're just gonna cut it along that line across the transmission pan and then back to that line over there. And that should be more than enough floor. All right, I was looking here. I just brought this door in because it's been out back. But anyway, it is mutilated, whatever that is. And then somebody's cut the lock out of it. So, you know, it's solid down here. So the only thing this door is going to be halfway good for is cutting the bottom out, maybe to patch this one, because this one's kind of rusty. I think that's where I'm at in this project. If I buy any more stuff, it's going to be reproduction. So that way I don't have to deal with wavy, rusty junk. So that one was in the shed. That came with the Suburban when I bought it. I had 7 doors that I got that day. 2 Suburban doors, both sides. So there's that one. And then of course, there's the green one, and then here's this red one. And then there's the other green one for the passenger side, but you can see it's screwed up right there. So what I'm gonna do is take the trim off of that thing, and I'll probably put it on here just because I kind of like that trim. But we're gonna use the GMC doors, both of them. I'm sure both of these doors are filled with Bondo. Whoever worked on that thing last loved Bondo, and they didn't know anything about doing any metal work, so. And then this one is rusty to start with too. So I don't even know if I'll be able to do anything with these 2 doors. I mean, they're there. I got them. I can cut sections out of them if I need to, which I don't know. I may need to. We'll see. Well, here we are. This is the last few minutes that this cab is gonna be in one piece. So I ran out of cutoff wheels on that thing. Only had 2 of them, and they were 4-inch. I need some 6-inch ones. So anyway, I went to grab some. And so this thing has an engine knock now. Just kidding. I don't know what it is about this fender that rattles, but once I get that cab cut in half, that's what I'm about to figure out. It's done that for a while. Anyway, I was messing with it at the gas station. I lifted the hood, and that's broke off. So we can't have that. But yeah, I don't know what this is. Like, everything's tight over here. And I even put this extra bolt in. I don't know. I'll figure that out here in a minute. I don't know if I have any extra ones of these laying around. We'll have to figure that out too. Well, here we are. We're in 2 halves. But it is starting to rain, so time to push this shit out of the way and get this truck back in the garage. All right, it is the next morning. We stuck this trim on there last night. All the clips are busted, so it's kind of just sitting there. So I have to get some more clips or make my own. Maybe I should put Dodge tow mirrors on here, since that one guy's gonna comment again and be like, I hate West Coast mirrors. Anyway, you get the idea here. We're gonna try to get this accomplished. Only thing wrong with these mirrors is that thing right there. I got these two from a guy, and they don't match, but the stand, you know, the mount matches. So these are in the back of the green shitbox Chevy, the 70 Chevy, the one with the inline sixer that runs and drives that I use as the farm truck. So these are in the back of it whenever I got that thing. So they do match. They're gonna have to be shined up because they're pretty crusty. So we're gonna see if we can swap these mirrors to those mounts and then get all the crust cleaned up off of them and get access to the insides of the doors and get them mounted. All right, we got our mirror mounted. May move it some later. It's at more of an angle than I was hoping for. But as of right now, it is what it is. I gave up on trying to get this door panel off because I can't get this handle off. We'll worry about that at some point in the future. The reason I was going to do that was to put nuts on the backside, but I said screw it, and I just used sheet metal screws. So when I do that permanently, though, it will have actual nuts in there, like this truck. Actual bolts and nuts, I mean. So I screwed this on because it was on one of those random doors. Got the fenders out of here. What I'm going to do now is clean up all this stuff in the floor. Get these mats out, vacuum up this mess, and see what I'm working with here. Got the floor vacuumed out. Took the mat up. This is pretty well what I expected. Rusty, crusty old mess. But it's still solid. I mean, there's no holes through it other than, you know, the rocker. Same thing back there. But it doesn't matter. I don't plan on using this floor anyway, unless something changes majorly. Also, I took the ceiling out, and then I just pulled this window out. So let me go over here and show you this. All right, this was a little bit scarier than I expected. Took out all the screws in there, and I was like, all right, cool. It's gonna come out nice and easy. Well, this thing is glued in. Takes quite a bit of prying to get it out. So anyway, I was really afraid of bending it. It is slightly out of square, but it is definitely not ruined. So we'll be able to use it. We'll square it back up. Obviously, we got to make this into a door pillar. And now we're going to take this section out. Well, I've reached a stopping point here. So I've got this out. And now what would be next is starting to cut this thing in half. But before I do that, I'm going to build some braces. So I'm going to go get some angle iron and bolt them to those holes, and same thing over there. And the factory very conveniently put holes right there that are threaded. So I'm going to bolt those, and I believe there's some more of those on the back of that cab over there. I'll be able to do all that to keep it perfectly square and keep it from moving around. So we got us some metal, and we're gonna use that to build a jig for this thing. So we got the holes where the seats bolt. We're gonna use the front ones, maybe the middle ones. There's some holes right there. I'm gonna use this floor pan for, you know, cause like to build the jig, but I do plan on using a different floor pan whenever I actually put this cab on a modern frame. So anyway, we got both of the mirrors mounted on this truck now. And we have a couple brackets left over and a couple mirrors left over. So what I'm gonna do now is pull the old raggedy inline six Chevy in here and bolt a passenger side mirror to it, because it doesn't have one, and 90% of the time I have that thing 100% loaded down with logs and brush, and I can't see out of the back window, and I can't see out of the passenger side because I don't have a mirror. So we're gonna move her in here and stick a mirror on her right quick. This thing's been sitting for close to a week now since the last time I drove it. It's been dumping rain, monsooning for the last couple of days, and we're about to find out if this battery has any juice or not. I bet it fires right up. Well, it did in fact fire right up, but it must have lost prime or something, because it was a whole ordeal to get it to run. reason this truck isn't the donor for the crew cab is because this thing is just so rusty that there's no point even trying. And honestly, it's a whole lot more fun in the form that it is right now. Look at that thing of beauty. Best old farm truck that there is. Spent the last little while cleaning up the garage. So now my game plan is to start making my jig. So I just took a tap, ran them through those holes, took a tap through these holes. I don't really think they need it, but they got it anyway. So I got these, they're 7/16 by 20 bolts. So I had to go get those because I didn't have any of those sitting around. Same thing down there. Realized that those were, I figured they'd be 5/16 by 18. But anyway, I'll have to go get some more of these bolts because they also go to this same area on the truck cab for the seat belts, I guess, that I gotta mount to this. So I got my setup here. I went and bought all this steel earlier. This is 1/8 inch, 2-inch angle iron. I'm gonna build basically a big square that goes in there and bolts to all the hard points. So that way when I cut this thing all apart, well, you obviously know why. Decided the way I'm gonna do this when I cut it all apart, before I start drilling out spot welds, this jig has to be in there, but I'm just gonna cut it right there. This is rusty right there anyway, so I can't use this junk. So cut this off, gonna cut along this line there, around the cab mount, and then back down. That's all gonna come off. And then up here, I guess cut the drip rail or whatever I gotta do. And then I'm gonna leave the roof in one piece, the entire length of it. At least that's my plan as of right now. And I'm gonna drill out spot welds all the way around it. I didn't think about it whenever I cut that other cab in half, but in fact need this section of the cab. So I'll have to drill out those spot welds and get that off there too. But I cut it off right there, so there's not much to work with. If I was thinking a little bit further ahead, I would have cut it more like right there. So that way there's more to work with. So anyway, the important part is right there at the front, because the Suburban has this body line in it, and the trucks don't have that. So we got to use the other roof and then build our own roof skin eventually. It's midnight. I've reached a stopping point. So we have pretty good start to this jig that I'm making here. So it's bolted to the front seat mounts. Looks like the rear seat mounts. I'm assuming that's what that was in the Suburban because it didn't have seats on it when I bought it. And then those holes there, which I don't know if those were for some kind of seatbelt option, or maybe the factory used those to do exactly what I'm doing here, to build one of these. I don't know, but I'm gonna put one more brace across the bottom at some point tomorrow. And then this will be solid. And that, the floor is probably not going to flex, but at some point I'm going to have these off of there, and then the bottom jig, the cross piece there is going to support everything else when I drop this floor out of there and stick a new modern truck floor in here and the firewall. So that's my plan, at least. I mean, I may end up just patching this floor up and using it, who knows. So anyway, this was 30 feet of this angle iron, and this is all I got left. Those two little sections and this one, and that's gonna be my cross piece. So I'm gonna have to go buy some more of that. I may just go do that tomorrow, so that way I can keep on trucking. But I'm gonna put lengthways piece, up here, gonna tie it into the front somewhere, and then the other end of it's gonna go into the cab that I'm gonna graft onto this one. So, and then I'll make some kind of support coming off the bottom so it stay solid back there. All right, we're out here the next morning. I got myself a game plan together. I've been looking at this thing for a while. So this is the last long piece of metal that I have left. What I'm gonna do with that is make a brace, and I'm gonna weld a stud to the pillar right there, and same thing on this side. And what I got this metal in here for, I was wanting it to be as low as possible, but if I bolt it as low as possible, it's gonna be right in the way of getting to my hinges down here. So I'm gonna go slightly higher. Now on Maximus, I did weld a stud in this area, and that's what the seatbelt reel goes to. And then it goes up, and then there's the top of it, and then it comes back down and bolts to the floor. And then of course it pulls across and goes in the middle. So that stud will be dual purpose. Like, you know, I'll have it there. It'll be for this jig, and then at some point in the future, I can mount seat belts to it. So I was just crawling around under this thing, and the cab mount, I thought would have been like right there. Turns out it is more like in this area, and there's a big metal plate that goes along the length of the bottom of this. So I'm going to try to avoid that. I'm going to cut out all this crap, then go straight up around the cab mount, back down, then straight across the bottom. Same thing on that side. And then we got 2 more bolts on each side back here. I think the other one's like right in this area, and then that one. So I'm going to just take a grinder and cut the bottoms of those off. And then same thing right there. And that should be the back half of it. That's all we got for this video. I think we got a whole lot done. Actually, I never did get the remote start done on this truck, but we'll handle that at some point. It's all hooked up, it's ready to go, but this truck didn't have keyless entry from the factory, so we'll figure it out at some point in the future. Anyway, we just got to the ducktail run here in Gas City, Indiana. We're pretty rushed. Honestly, this truck was filthy, and then at like 9:30 last night, I had to give it a makeshift pressure washing with a flashlight. But we're gonna try to shine it up a little bit once we get parked up here. But this car show will be in the next video, so you guys will have to check that one out. But we will see you guys next time.